Aloha and welcome to the Tadaima Virtual Pilgrimage. Today, we are going to be joined by Maurice Yamasato talking about his family's experience in Peru during World War II. My name is Sherry Thomas Sherrill, and I'm going to be talking story with Maurice. You know, Maurice, you are known as a very famous architect in
No,
Hawaii and in Japan.
no,
And,
no.
I've known you for years, but I've never really known about your family's story. And it's really fascinating. So let's start by talking about your father. His name
Okay.
was Toshio Yamasato, and he was born in 1900 in Okinawa. Can you tell us a little bit about him going over to Peru to try and make a living?
Well, I guess most of the Okinawans immigrated to Hawaii, but there were a big percent that went to Peru. And my dad was 18 years old when he decided to go to Peru, South America. And the interesting part is, should I go into the story about, or maybe you can explain how that underground
Well,
railroad?
we have a photo of your
Yeah.
father
Mhm.
around the time that he went over that we can hopefully put up on the screen shortly. But so your father went over to Peru to work on a plantation, but you were telling me the conditions were really bad.
Right.
Did your father talk about what happened when he went over to Peru?
Well, uh, there was a group of friends or acquaintances that made a decision to not to work on the plantation. So they had connections with some Okinawans and Lima, Peru. So they decided to go there instead of working in the plantation.
So,
Yeah.
in Hawaii, the plantation, we talk about plantation, it's more like pineapple or sugarcane.
Yeah.
I think in Peru, it was something more like, um, like coffee but the conditions were pretty bad, and your father
Right,
decides to run away.
right. Five of
Um,
them.
what I was fascinated by was that there seemed to be a kind of underground railroad system where Okinawans who already were in Peru set up a way to help other Okinawans escape from the plantation and get to the big city, Lima. So
Right,
you said somebody was there, like they could stop at a house, get directions and supplies.
right. And be hired to work. My dad started off as a dishwasher for a restaurant. He was 18, and eventually he became restaurant owner.
So
You know,
when he got to Peru, Lima, the
hmm
big city, he started off doing dishes, but he got a lot of help from the Okinawans
that's
who
right.
are already there.
That's right.
And eventually he's able to become a very successful businessman. So what kind of businesses did he have?
Well, he started off as a small little cafe, serving lunch, whatever, and then grew it, branched off into import export, not export, probably import, and had a little sundry store.
So we actually have a photo of the your father's store in
That,
Lima that we
right.
could pull up. Um,
They call it a bazaar.
Bazaar.
Yeah, I don't know
Oh
why.
yeah, like because it
Bazaar. Yeah,
like a shop that
right,
carries a
yeah,
bunch of different things.
right,
So your father is very successful, and at some point, then he decides he needs to find a wife.
right.
What does he do?
So, well, he was very successful. He had a big house, and oh no, and then, well, actually, maids and cooks. Anyway, so he decided at age 31 to go to Okinawa and get a wife, and that's where
So no picture bride kind of thing. He
no,
actually
no
went
picture
back
bride.
to Okinawa,
Right,
and back then it was not a simple journey. It was actually kind of a long journey to get back.
by boat. Yeah.
Oh, by boat.
But interesting because my dad by then was pretty well to do. So when he went to Okinawa, his sister introduced him to her friend, which is my mom, was 11 years younger. Of course, my dad didn't tell my mom his age.
Are you saying he lied about his age?
I think so. What's anyway? But and also my dad, what do you call my mom? Didn't want to stay, get married to a farmer in Okinawa. She
Hard work.
hard work, and she went to an all girls school, high school, which is equivalent to college, right? So I guess my dad impressed her because he also courted her with a bicycle. He came over with a bicycle, and in Okinawa at that time, having a bicycle is like having a Mercedes or a Rolls Royce.
So your
So,
dad was smooth.
so he was moved, although he was only 5 feet tall and 100, according to his, I think I was 110 pounds.
It's okay. He was on a bicycle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Actually, I forgot to ask him to pull it up, but there was a photo of your father before he left Peru with his family in Peru.
Hmm.
Um, so he's courting your mother, and what was her name?
Yasu,
Yasu.
Arashiro, maiden name.
So the bike impresses her, and they get married.
Good.
But they actually stay in Okinawa for some time, right?
Yes, he stayed there for two to 3 years and had two um, children, Kimiko, my oldest, Kimiko, and Eiko, the second,
So two
two
daughters.
daughters, and
But he does need to get back to Peru.
Peru. So my grandmother, I was hesitant at first, and my mom went ahead with my dad, and then the unfortunate thing happened, which was the World War II broke up.
So they left their first two daughters behind in Okinawa, I think because they were too young.
No, because my grandmother was supposed to come up and join them.
Oh, so they would go with her.
Yeah, yeah. But once the war broke out, you know, there's
So the war breaks out, and the grandmother and their two daughters can no longer join them in South America.
right.
And so, how long is it before they're reunited with their
Oh,
two kids?
that was pretty stressful for my mom and dad because during the war they stayed in Okinawa. Then after the war, my two sisters was educated in Okinawa, graduated high school in Okinawa, and then they were able to, after graduating, come over to Hawaii.
But I imagine they didn't have a lot of communication at that
Yeah,
time.
right,
And so they probably didn't know what happened to their family back home in Okinawa.
right. That and no, well, we were back in Hawaii at that time,
Right.
and
Well, one of the things that did happen when they were separated was the Battle of Okinawa. And
mm,
so, I mean, this is another story that maybe we can talk about at another time. But your older sisters and your grandparents had to hide in caves during the
right,
war.
right,
The Battle of Okinawa was called, the just one of the largest air, sea, land battles, and just the sheer artillery numbers. So I imagine it
yeah,
was it was
it's traumatic. In fact, they were 9 and 11 years old, And my sisters refused, after they came to Hawaii and they attended high school, graduated from American high school, Kappa High School and Hawaii Mission Academy. And they went on to go to college, La Sierra College and Los Angeles State College, get a degree in teaching. But the interesting part was they refused to go back to Okinawa initially because they said no good memories. Why go there? Till my sister was 69 years old. Then she went back to Okinawa, and it was an eye opener.
Yeah, those stories are very hard to tell.
Yeah,
So it's 16 years before your parents or your family is able to reunite with the first two daughters.
right,
But back in Peru, actually, you were born
right.
and two
Two
sisters.
sisters, Florinda. Um, they gave me a Spanish name, Manuel, and Rosa,
So the three kids born
to
in Peru were
Peru,
given Spanish names.
Spanish name. And the interesting part was I was named after Manuel Prado, the president of Peru. And he's the very person that sent all us Peruvians to, what do you call?
To the camps,
To
or
the
had you
camp.
kidnapped? Had your
Right,
father
right,
kidnapped?
right.
So
Or
you changed your name pretty
deported.
fast, yeah?
Yeah. That's a good reason to change it too.
We have a picture of your father, and I'm not actually sure which child is in the photo. But according to Densho, during the 1930s, as hostilities developed in Asia and Europe, the U.S. was concerned with Axis kind of infiltrating Latin
Mhm.
America. So in July of 1940, FDR authorizes the FBI to station agents at U.S. embassies throughout Latin America.
Yeah.
So these agents were gathering intelligence and creating what they called the Proclaimed list. And this was a list of individuals suspected of harboring Axis sympathies. But what they found is that only a very few of the Japanese on that list were deported from Peru. Instead, it seems like the targets were wealthy businessmen like your father, who were arrested and deported and had all of their assets seized or looted. So, how old were you when your father was taken away by the Peruvian government?
Well, actually, about a year and a half because he first went to Panama. But we joined him when I was about 2.5 years old.
There's something like a story where I mean, do you know what the Peruvian Japanese community kind of knew, like what rumors were going around?
Well, they knew they were um, kidnapping or arresting Japanese, not citizens. We were Peruvian. So my dad, like typical Japanese, the rest, hid in the attics but sooner or
So
later he
your
got
father went
caught
into hiding
hiding.
because,
Right,
people were disappearing or being taken away.
right.
But what happened? How
But
did he
they
get captured?
actually took because I asked my dad why was he taken? Were we spies or something? No, he said no. Somehow it's an economic reason. The people who gave the list are businessmen, so they gave the names of competitors
Oh,
in their
so his
business.
competitors were kind of
Right,
trying to
provide
get
them out. Yeah, that's why Crystal City had more. Um,
businessmen,
yeah,
successful, prominent businessmen.
like teachers and all that.
Yeah, which
Yeah.
goes back to that whole thing of there is a proclaimed list of people who are supposed to have Axis sympathies, but not too many people were taken from that actual list. It was people like your
Yeah.
father who were businessmen.
Yeah.
So, how did your father get captured?
Well, he was impatient, and he just came down from the attic, and just happened that the police just came in and just took him away.
And you were saying that, he first got taken to, uh, I think, an island in Panama.
Yeah.
So there was an agreement the US had to deport Japanese to
To-
there. But your mother opted to join your father.
right, because they wanted to use this Peruvian Japanese for prisoner hostage exchange with Japan, so they needed families,
To exchange you guys
the
with
families,
American or US.
families, in
who were
Japan.
captured in Japan.
Japan.
So, I was looking it up. So the estimates are that the US interned nearly 1,800 Japanese from Peru.
Right.
And they did want to use you guys. Well, they didn't end up using you guys as an exchange. But because your mother opted to join your father, he was removed from Peru and sent to Crystal City Detention Center in Texas.
Texas.
Actually, it's Crystal City Alien Enemy Detention Facility. So your
Right.
father and you were actually classified as enemy aliens,
Yeah, my family, the whole family.
your whole family. And I think it's, I think you were telling me an account about, you were reading about when internees went to Crystal City, that they stripped you of your passports and sprayed you down. Do you remember that?
Well, I was told, I don't remember, I was too young, but I was told that by my parents, yeah,
What did
kinda.
they tell you?
that, how they were treated like, not, what do you call
Animals, cattle.
they didn't use those words, but yeah.
But what did they tell you?
No, that they were like illegal aliens, and not treated like human beings, right?
So I think you told me they were sprayed with DDT, which
Right.
is a banned pesticide,
Right.
and that's what, to kill any bugs or lice that they might have had. Is that why they were sprayed with DDT?
Yeah, I think so. I don't think they had coronavirus that time. Oops.
Definitely
Sorry.
not.
Okay.
So with your father being taken away forcibly and your mother opting to take the three children, what happened to your father's businesses and his assets?
Well, everything was taken away, confiscated by the Peruvian government. So, uh, like when we arrived on Kauai after the camp, I know we were penniless, and except for that, at Crystal City, we had paper money or paper coins, which is useless, but I used that for show and tell for my elementary school.
What are these paper coins?
Well, it looked like coins, right? But it's made out of cardboard.
So this was like currency that was used
Currency.
within the camp?
I think, yeah, right,
Oh,
right. But anyway, I know my dad didn't have any money. Yeah.
right, right. So your mother was
So-
part of a group known as voluntary internees. So Crystal City was known as the family internment camp. Um, how long did you guys spend at Crystal City?
Oh, I think about 2.5 years.
2.5 years.
Yeah, 3 years maybe.
What memories do you have of Crystal City?
As a child, you don't have bad memories. Yeah? You know, it's more you remember the fun things. Yeah. Like that armadillo story where we chased the armadillo. Not we, I didn't, but there was a group of people caught an armadillo, and of course they sent it to the taxidermist in the camp. But
Your camp had a taxidermist?
yeah, interesting. Yeah, I still remember he had all this. I don't know his name, but coming back to childhood memories, it, it wasn't traumatic. I felt after through our Peruvian reunions, I felt very sympathetic or sorry for those who were in high school or college, now, or I'm
older
sure
children.
it had a big impact on them.
You told me a story once that I just never forgot. It was something about when you were looking through the fence
Oh yeah,
at the soldier.
yeah. I remember as a child, just happened to be looking out through the big high fence, and outside there was a soldier on a horse and looking at us. I mean, looking to the camp, and I was kept looking, staring at him, and thinking, "Oh, that poor guy. There's a big fence. He can't come in." I felt sorry for him. I said, "Well, he wants to come in, but he can't come in." you know, I never thought that. You know, so the perspective was a little different as a child.
Right, right. Were you talking about a pool as well?
Yeah, that was interesting. It was an irrigation water catchment system or whatever, but they used it as a pool. And we just went to Crystal City last year because that it's almost like a landmark. And interesting, it's just a simple round pool, but an incident where two 10-year-old drowned
Oh
and was very,
no.
very sad for the camp. And, the camp, I'm sorry, the pool was not built for safety. It was more for those who can swim. Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, go ahead.
I think you had another sibling born in the
Oh yeah,
camp.
Fumiko. So yeah, she was born in Crystal City, and she's now married to Dr. Crowley, great brother-in-law. Yeah,
So you're around 3 years old when you're at the camp. You're
yeah.
there for about 2.5 to 3 years. And I think a lot of what you know about the camp is stories you heard from your parents or your family.
Right. And the memory that I have, like I said, is what's the right word? Very kiddish. Yeah.
Yeah. Like the whole thing of not understanding what it meant to
Yeah.
be looking through a fence and seeing a soldier
Right. Right.
and feeling sorry for him instead of
Yeah.
being scared.
Right. Or it's yeah.
So your family had the status of enemy aliens and you're being held indefinitely without charge in a foreign country, which means probably not a lot of rights or ways to assert your rights.
Yeah.
Um, the war ends, your family is still in Texas, held indefinitely. And Harry Truman issues a presidential proclamation in September of 1945 authorizing the removal of enemy aliens who are within the territory of the United States without the admission under immigration laws. So you guys are expected to leave. So what's happening at this point? What are your family's options?
Well, they wanted us to go, the family to go back to Okinawa, which was war torn, or Japan. We couldn't go back to Peru.
So that was one option was go to Japan or go to Okinawa, which is completely devastated by war.
Right. And the second option would be go to Seabrook Farms and work
In
for
New
the
Jersey,
Bird Eye Company.
your third option is to go back to Peru.
But um, we're very indebted to Mr. Gongoro Nakamura.
Before we get to
Oh,
that,
yeah.
though, talking
Oh,
about
okay.
Peru, was that an option your father considered going
Right.
back to Peru?
No, no. Because, you can't go back, right?
I think you mentioned
I
your
think.
father was upset or angry
Oh,
with the Peruvian government.
no,
Not
not
really.
really. Not really.
I did
Sure.
read that Peru refuses to take responsibility for their actions during the war.
Right.
And the Japanese Peruvians who do go back face a very difficult situation where there's still a lot of prejudice and hatred. So actually, maybe better you guys didn't go back
Oh,
to
yeah,
Peru, right?
definitely. My dad. In fact, I went back to Peru later on, and first thing I came back and told my dad, I'm so glad, they decided to move to Hawaii instead of Peru, which, it's almost certain sections are like third world country. Right?
So your father was known as Alejandro when
Oh,
he
yeah.
was in Peru, but then does he switch back to his name Toshio?
Right, Toshio.
And then you
And
change your name
to Maurice.
to Maurice.
Yeah.
Do your sisters with the Spanish names change their names as well?
No, they had nice names, Florinda and Rosa. That's
Okay.
nice. Yeah.
So let's talk about the fourth option, which is the one that your dad selected, was to come to Hawaii.
Up to Hawaii.
So what
Because-
what happened with that one?
Well, we were fortunate that he had a sister who moved to Hawaii, Kauai.
The island of Kauai.
Yeah. So, of course, going there, you need a sponsor. So that's where I, I have to mention, Mr. Charlie Miyashiro's family,
So when you
the
say sponsor, you're talking about a financial sponsor?
financial sponsor. And they owned the Kuhio Grill by University of Hawaii at that time.
So that's a
they were
famous restaurant.
right. They were the sponsor for
Actually,
our
Kuhio
family.
Grill, this one was on Kauai, right?
No,
Or
no,
it was
no.
on Oahu.
In Oahu by
Oh.
University of Hawaii
Okay.
on King Street. But it's closed. But anyway, so they sponsored us, and my dad moved to Kauai and worked for Hawaii food, Hawaiian Food Packers, a pineapple company.
So in my notes, it says that Charlie Miyashiro of Kuhio Grill sponsored. So your parents and four children, and Minoru Furugen family, who owned a quality supermarket, gave credit to your parents for groceries so that they could
Y-
survive.
Survive, right?
That's
They had,
amazing.
yeah, they had a quality market and gave my dad credit, and he mentioned that I know your kids will take care of it if later, you know.
So without these two businessmen stepping up and
Yeah.
saying, we will sponsor this family, these people we don't know, your family would not have had the option to go to Kauai.
Uh, no, if we didn't have a sponsor.
Right, right.
Yeah,
You didn't
right,
have
right,
these
right.
two.
Yeah. So lucky, fortunate.
I think that's beautiful
Mm.
that they did that. So your father comes to Kauai, and you mentioned he had nothing.
Mm.
So what does he end up doing to survive and support his family?
Yeah, so he had a job as a janitor at the pineapple cannery. So he was a, you know, janitor and yard man, you know, the lowest paid
Entry
employee,
level, yeah.
right? But he never grumbled,
But
and
I think you said he kind of pulled four jobs. So he was like a
he,
janitor.
he was janitor, a yard man, and on weekends he would work for the manager's yard, take care of the yard. So he loved his, outdoor. And then we, we had to raise pigs, you know,
An
every
Okinawan thing.
Okinawan thing. And at one time we had about 30 pigs, I think. And every Sundays we would, um, you know, sell it to the market. So we have to get up early in the morning and dress the pig and everything.
I think you mentioned one of your jobs was collecting slop for the pigs from different families or stores.
Yeah,
And it
which
didn't
was,
impress the girls, yeah.
yeah, I had to wear those rubber boots, and khaki pants. I go to house from, from elementary school to high school, in fact, college.
Especially you
Yeah,
carried a bucket and
bucket and running to the back porch, grabbing the can of slop, bringing it over.
I think you mentioned your father also farmed, like did
Yeah.
vegetable farming and
Yeah, we had to raise our own vegetables. But for my college money, I had to raise 1 acre of bananas, bluefield bananas, plowing the land and actually planting the banana trees and 1 acre, and took care of my college money.
your wife Jeannie mentioned that your mother had to, raise all these kids, and I'm assuming that the first two daughters came in. So at that point, there's the six children, and
And
two more
from
girls are born.
Okinawa, no, oh yeah, yeah.
So two
So
girls came back from Okinawa,
yeah,
and then two more girls are born.
born
So that's how many children?
eight,
Eight children. So
eight
your
children.
mother is raising eight children, and she's working as a tailor on the side.
Right,
And your wife mentioned that she only got like 2 hours of
2 hours sleep.
sleep.
Right.
So what I'm curious about is, I want to ask you about is your family had maids and a cook, a huge house, two businesses when they're in Peru, and all of that is taken away. And all of a sudden, your father's working four jobs, your mother only gets 2 hours of sleep. Can you
Yeah.
talk about that?
Interesting because they never complain. And my dad was a type very positive thinker and always joking around. Um, we didn't feel poor or like we're wow, because we had always vegetables and food to eat. And the only regret I have is couldn't play for the high school sports because of working. Yeah, it's okay. you know no talent anyway. But the interesting part was all the 8 children, we all graduated from college. And how we did it, I thought was natural that everybody was doing that was when the oldest went to college, the younger ones, we worked for the cannery, and whatever money we had, we sent to the oldest one, and as you know, second and third one.
So everybody
Yeah,
helped each
and
other.
and I'm in the middle, so when my oldest sister graduated, they would send me money to
Mhm.
support me, but my parents couldn't send us a dime. And then when I graduated, of course, the younger one, so we kind of leapfrog and
I
kind of
think
help
you
each
were a
other.
bit of a disappointment to your mother because you didn't become a teacher.
Yeah, to this day, she's in heaven. Said, Maurice, how come? Well, he would say, Hiro, how come you didn't become a teacher?
Because your mother really believed in education. And
Education and
so I think in
right,
your family,
they're all
it,
teachers.
everyone is a teacher, but those who were not teachers married teachers.
Teachers, myself too. Uh, Jeannie's a school teacher. Yeah.
It's funny because you
Mm.
are a very successful, award winning architect, and your mother still was disappointed that you didn't become a teacher.
Yeah, I remember when my office was in prime, she mentioning, oh, when are you going to be smart enough to be a teacher? You know, yeah. And,
So I think that one thing I wanted to ask you about is that so your parents are still illegal. You are still illegal aliens. They have to go to Honolulu every year to register with the immigration office, and they eventually become citizens. So when reparations happened,
mhm.
um, a lot of uh, those from South Latin America or South America were only offered $5,000, where people in the camps were like 20,000. What did your family?
Well, we're fortunate. My sister, Fumiko, was born in Crystal City, so she's an automatic American citizen. But my dad got naturalized 1956, so we all became that American citizen, and and we have to credit Elsa Kudo and Ego Kudo for really working hard to have Peruvians that were naturalized to fall under the Japanese um, reparation. So we all had our 20,000 under the Japanese reparation, and
But you still had a hard time
yeah,
because your records were all top secret.
yeah,
So Maurice's wife was just saying that he had a hard time because his records were top secret.
yeah,
Someone was asking, Kathy is asking, you mentioned Gongoro Nakamura,
yeah.
also known as Tex, who was an attorney. Do you know anything more about him and what he did for the Japanese Peruvians?
Oh, yeah. He was the attorney, and he's the one that prepared all the papers for my dad, and highly respected attorney, right?
So he did this pro bono, or
I
I'm guessing
think,
because
yeah, he
your
did
dad
it
probably
pro
didn't have
bono
money
because we
to.
didn't, yeah, no money, right?
Wow.
And he's the one that advised my parents not to be sent back to Japan, Okinawa.
Mm. So more than just helping out, he was giving advice and about life and how
Yeah,
to survive.
right.
Because you mentioned someone got the advice to go to Canada, and that messed up their reparations.
Yeah.
Mm. So with all of this, I think it's interesting that you have like a reunion type thing, a Peru Kai,
Oh, yeah.
and you guys have been meeting for 17
Yeah,
years.
we just had our 17th last year.
What is
At
Peru Kai?
Perukai is a um, Peruvian born families. I mean, or kids or families that were incarcerated in Crystal City. Yeah.
And so you meet sometimes in Hawaii. I think the last meeting was in Texas.
Yeah, our first meeting was in San Jose, and then we had several times in Hawaii, and yeah, interesting.
So, I'm going to shift things over
Okay.
to some questions, but thank you so much for
Oh,
sharing your memories. I think it's it's wonderful that we're able to capture these stories. And got to make sure your kids and grandkids all know this as well, yeah?
Yeah, somehow as yeah, we fail to talk to our kids about, you know.
That's okay. We will make them watch this video. So Mia was asking, was it common among the Japanese Latin Americans to change their names depending where they were?
I
So
think so. You know, Arturo, they changed to Art, right?
I guess
Um,
if it was like, but you mentioned your two sisters, Florinda, Rosa, didn't change their name,
right.
but you opted to change your name. So how did you pick your new name,
Oh, that's good. Interesting because
Manuel to
to
Maurice?
Maurice. Actually, it's supposed to be Morris, Morris, because my dad had a cousin who was a judge on Kauai, attorney, Maurice Shinsato. Oh, well, super guy. Anyway, he said for me to change, be named after him, Maurice Shinsato, yeah, and be smart like him. That time I was in the eighth grade, seventh grade when I got naturalized, but I didn't want to spell it Morris, so I changed the spelling to Maurice.
Mm.
So probably now my dad's in heaven now. He's to his dying day. He calls me Morris.
Wow.
Yeah, but I had more laughs on the Maurice than Manuel.
So your first two sisters have Japanese name. The three kids born in Peru have Spanish names. The sister born at Crystal City had a
Has a
Japanese
Japanese
name.
name, but now she's got a very American last name,
Mm.
Crowley.
So
Yeah.
that's a
No,
good
no,
juxtaposition.
and the last two was supposed to be American names. Well, they are American names, Margaret and Mary.
So the last two who were born on Kauai were given American names.
Right,
So I guess the only anomaly is the sister born in Texas who
Texas.
had the Japanese name.
Right.
Got it. You know, when you first told me your family story, it took me a while to sort through all of that because there's so many kids and they're all over. Yeah,
And all chop suey.
yeah. That reunion with your two sisters who you had never met and your parents had not seen for 16 years must have been amazing.
I'm so glad we're all together. Yeah.
It must have been pretty emotional though. Yeah.
Oh yeah, for my mom especially. She felt like she were neglecting her two oldest kids.
Yeah.
But Sugar and I cannot help the war, and we were poor, couldn't bring them over.
I wondered if that. Oh, we do have a question from Victor. Did the family in Crystal City know those Japanese Peruvians who did go to Japan as part of the U.S. exchange? So did you know of
Yeah.
any?
Oh yeah. Oh shucks. They came to our reunions in Hawaii, and we got to know them. Yeah.
Did they talk
They
a little
they
bit
did.
about their experience?
Yeah, they did have a hard time in Japan, but they became successful. So nice ending. Yeah.
So when you guys gather at your Perukai reunions,
Hmm.
people share stories,
Oh
and
yeah, a lot. Yeah.
so if people wanted to learn more about, maybe some of the information shared through the Perukai, can they?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like Kamisato. Oh, forgot her. She's a well-known dress designer in Los Angeles, very successful. I mean, you can name so many people. It was interesting. Interesting. There was a guy. I forgot his name. Don't mind me at my age. Good, handsome, really rugged guy from Wyoming. He lived in Wyoming. Grew up in Wyoming. Not grew up, but Peru. Born in Peru, camp, and ended up in Wyoming.
So people scattered all over
All
then.
over.
Interesting.
Yeah.
You know, one of the things I was reading about was in 2011, the then president of Peru apologized for the actions that the government took during World War II. How did you feel reading that apology?
Well, by time, because interesting, because one of our U.S. senators, when I wrote a letter, early for reparation, I mean, whatever happened, and the congressperson said, "Why don't you sue the Peruvian government? You know, get redress from them." And like, it's not U.S.'s fault, but they're the one that instigated this. Yeah. So anyway, so
I think you mentioned that some people refused to accept the money because they
yeah,
felt it was an insult.
yeah. Well, my dad too. Uh, he didn't care. He said 20, 20,000. To say my house and business was, and all this was 20,000, and you know.
So your family
So he said it's not about the money. It's more the apology.
was more important than the money.
Yeah. So he didn't get any money.
Oh, he didn't
Yeah.
take any money. Wow. I think one of the things that I found interesting um, was learning about your love of music, which I didn't know about. So you were showing me pictures of your dad on Kauai at it looked like Okinawan gatherings, and it looked like he was dancing. So was your father very involved in the Okinawan community on Kauai?
Yeah, he was. He loved his Okinawan music, so late at night he'd be playing his sanshin. And the interesting part is he used to do the shisa, on Kauai. And
So this
now
is
we
the
have our John
Okinawan lion
Itamura.
dance.
Yeah, and we have our John Itamura that brought this back. So I'm so proud of, what John's doing. Bring back memories.
So Johnny Tumora is the head of the Hawaii Okinawa Creative Arts, which is teaching the art of
Uh,
Okinawan lion dance to the next generation,
right.
and that includes your granddaughter, right?
Yeah, yeah. Thanks to John. Yeah, he makes it fun.
So your father instilled in you a love of music and culture, and then your mother instilled, a deep love for education.
Education.
I still can't get over, just that they were not bitter. And I
Yeah.
think that generation, shikatakanai, right? It can't be
Yeah.
helped.
Yeah. And yeah, I must say, my dad was a very positive thinker. You know, uh, I always tell people I probably would have joined an activist group. He was 44 years old or 42 when everything was taken away. You know,
Yeah,
yeah,
and essentially has to start over with 8 children
yeah,
that need to be fed and
yeah,
raised.
yeah,
So I mean, I find your parents extraordinary, because like you said, they were not bitter. They just did
yeah,
what they had to do.
yeah. And he always had a sense of humor. Which
Like you.
no, but mine kicks in at the wrong time.
So Maurice, there's a question from Victor asking, did any of the Japanese Peruvians who went back to Japan as part of the exchange after the war eventually return to Peru?
Oh, that I'm not. Yeah, because the ones that I met still lived in Japan. Yeah.
But there are a lot of Okinawans
I-
currently living in Peru right now.
Yeah, they said what 80% of the Japanese are Peruvian at
Oh,
one
really?
time.
Or Okinawan, you
I
mean?
mean Okinawan, right?
Oh,
And I
interesting.
had an opportunity to bring 66 United Okinawa Association group to South America as a goodwill tour, and went to Peru, and that's another story. Yeah,
We were talking about your father's love of music, which I think passed down to you. And this is a request from Hanako. Could you play some music for us?
wait, before I do that, um I'd like to thank actually Eigo Kudo and Elsa Kudo. They were very instrumental in this reparation, organizing in Hawaii, and for us to get the reparation. They did a lot of work. And interesting part, because When I was president of HUA, or United Okinawa Association, Eigo was president of Japanese society. So we had a nice talk about that. Two Peruvians, heading the top organizations. But yeah,
I think in your story, there's a lot of these people who step up that, you know, just help when the help is needed. Like
yeah,
these little guardian angels that step in and make sure that you, your family, have success.
yeah. I mean, that word okage-sama there,
Okage-sama de.
okage-sama de has a lot of meaning to our family. I mean, there's so many people we are indebted to.
Well, and I think you do pass on it, the help as well, because you do a lot for the Hawaii community
I
as well.
hope, in a little way I can, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
But
Yeah.
I think it is amazing that in your family story, that you do remember these amazing individuals.
Hmm. I have to credit my mom and dad, how their attitude about life. Yeah,
Definitely passed on to their children.
hope so. Hope so.
So, how many instruments do you play?
Oh, what do you mean? In the garage? I'm not a professional musician. I'm just no. I just love music, but I I can't read a note just by
Oh, so you
no
just like you teach
feeling.
yourself the piano, you teach yourself the
Yeah,
banjo, the guitar.
yeah, by ear.
Sorry, I have to
Yeah,
say,
that's why I have big ear.
the executive director of the Hawaii United Okinawan Association is helping us out by recording. And he told me, hey, did you mention that Maurice designed the Hawaii Okinawa Center
Oh,
at the
no.
Hawaii Okinawa Plaza? Okay, John, I made the plug.
And we had somebody super that's doing a great job taking care of it, John Itomura. And Sherry uh, with the publicity and all that. Thank you.
It's a nice
Thank you.
community. But hey, do you wanted
Okay,
to share
just-
some music with people?
This is just a Hawaiian slack key to show my love for Hawaii. Yeah.
Actually, I
Thank
can hear
you.
Hanako yelling Hanaho.
No.
Actually,
Thank you.
if it's not an imposition, would you be willing to play a little bit of your banjo?
Oh no, not yet.
You're not ready yet. You're
Not
still
ready
learning.
yet. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
think it's I John showed your wall of instruments. I think it's absolutely amazing how
Oh.
many instruments that you're practicing and learning.
No, I had that from a long time. From one was from seventh grade, eighth grade. I had this mountain ukulele that I bought in college for $78. Now it's worth $3,000. They're all.
Can we show
Yeah.
people the kankara?
And John can play it maybe.
Yeah, so tell us what a kankara is.
No, kankara was a sanshin, the Okinawan sanshin that was made during the war because a lot
So
of
mainland people probably would notice like the precursor to the shamisen.
yeah, right. But this was for after the war.
So the sanshins are destroyed. So
So
you're holding a sanshin.
yeah, this is a sunshine, and this is a kankara that's made out of can and almost handmade.
So that's what the Okinawans made after the war.
Um, right. I think
I heard an amazing story where people were in the camps, the civilians were in the camps in utter despair, and someone made a kankara and started playing music, and they felt hope for the first time in months because music had returned.
oh,
And that I think is the power of music,
yeah.
especially in times of despair.
I think music is so important because even in architecture, my design is based on music.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. If I'm gonna talk about architecture, because you need rhythm, you know, uh, variation. I mean, but the bottom line is feeling. Yeah, a building has to have a feeling. The inside, like music, you have sad feeling, happy feeling. You have to create this happy feeling. For me, peaceful. So my house, I try, make it so that it's peaceful. You know,
That changes how I look at your
so it's
building.
music. Yeah, music, life.
So, as we kind of wrap this interview up or this talk story up, sorry to throw this question at you at the very end, but looking back on your family story and especially your parents, what they experienced. Looking back, I mean, what would you want the next generation to know or to learn from your family story?
Well, I think number one, of course, I learned this on through past years experience. Put God first, kami-sama, and then your family, yeah, and then make sure or your wife, your families, then the community. Instead of trying to settle the world problem without even taking care of your own family. So I think family is important, and music, like I said, the arts. Yeah, yeah. Have
Thank you so
fun, right?
much.
Have fun.
Have fun. I like that.
Yeah, yeah.
So, I think that about wraps up our
Mhm.
interview and our talk story. I want to thank you again for taking the time to share your story.
Thank you, Sherry. Uh, before uh, before I say anything stupid, maybe we should say cut.
Okay. At the request of Maurice, I'm going to say